Hello and welcome to this video. We're going to be summarizing Apple product sales across 5 different years from 2020 to 2024 across 5 regions and 3 products. Okay, now on the detailed data tab, this is where we find for each year and region the number of units that were sold, but then there's no price. And on the product prices, we have this two-dimensional lookup chart. So we can look for an iPad in 2022, and we could figure out it was $485.10. So we need to bring that information over into the price column, but the year changes and then the product changes. So I need to get a formula that will be flexible for the year and also for the product. Let's grab a couple of examples. Let me take 2024 iPhone and then I'm going to hold down the control key. I'll take a different year, an iPad. So I've done 24, 21, and then for Mac, let's do 2023, holding down the control key. So with the control key, it will select those, and then I can do a control C copy and come over into the prices. Okay, so now what I want to do is get the iPhone data and look for 2024. So I want to create a named range where these prices for iPhone are actually called iPhone. And I'm going to create those all at once. I want you to select the names and also the data. And then come up to the formulas tab. And then in the defined names, we're going to create from the selection. And it's going to look for something that will be a header to use as a name and then the data value. So it has identified that the left column will be the headers and then all the values, a row at a time, will be given named ranges. So if I hit OK, notice that now I come to my named range box and I have iPad and it's just the prices part. So it took the header. I had to include the header in the selection so it knew what name to use. But I have iPad, I have Mac, and I have iPhone. Okay, so over here, if I say that I want to get the iPhone, so now iPhone is a name that's searchable. You can see it comes up highlighted, and if I put it in a formula with an equal sign, those are the prices. But what I would like is to get those different prices. So down here, I want to get iPad. Notice that it's a different selection. And I don't want to have to type it each time, but if I say equals and then bring up the indirect function and then iPhone, now it brings back the array of iPhone prices. And if I copy that down, so now I have indirect of, and then it points to a cell that has iPad. Now I have the iPad prices and the Mac prices. Okay, now I can combine this with an XLOOKUP. So let me put it right here. I want to look up the year, and I want to look it up in this range. Okay, now this is what's great about the XLOOKUP function is that you can pull data from all different places. You don't have to use the left column or the top row. Look for the year 2024, and let's lock that. When you find it, it will be in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth slot. Bring back from here, which is the iPhone prices. And then I have the price for an iPhone in 2024. Okay, now let's try that once again. I want to look up. This time I want to look up the year 2021. Where should I look for it? In this row. And when I find it, it's in the second slot. I want to return from the iPad prices, the second slot, which will be $44.35.99 right here. Okay, now let's combine this together. I want to look up the year. And you know what? Let's just name this. Let's just give this a named range. Let me highlight it. And now I've got just the value, so I'll have to tell it what the name should be. I'm going to call it year. Look up 2023 in year, and when you find it, bring back from this vector, but this vector is the MAC prices. So I could say bring back from MAC. Now notice how the highlighting showed my named range, and there it worked. But then I'd have to type the word MAC. So instead, I could say bring it back from indirect and then point to that cell. Okay, let's try that. All at once. Look up this value in the range called year, and when you find it, return from the iPhone prices. So I need to do indirect to use iPhone as a reference. Now everything in there was named ranges or pointing to cells that I want to have an indirect reference or a relative reference. So now I can copy it down. You're right, that is really cool. Let's do it for all of the data combined. So for the price, I want to look up, find the year for this row. I want that to be a relative reference, so don't lock it. Look it up in the year. Again, this is where XLOOKUP is fantastic because it'll keep that reference even though it's on a different tab. Look it up in the year. When you find it, return from the iPhone prices. So do an indirect and then have it get the iPhone prices. $635 for an iPhone in 2020. Let's just double check. $635 for an iPhone in 2020. And if I click on it, notice that I could put more decimals. There we go. So it did find that price, but for our purposes, we don't need the pennies. Okay, once I know that that works, let's just copy it down a little bit. Let's go to right here. This price should have taken 2020 and brought back the iPad price. iPad in 2020, 405. iPad 2020, 405. There it is. Okay, so we can, with a double click, copy that down to the entire column. And there's all of our prices. Now for the revenue, it will be the units sold times the price per unit. So that's ready to go. And then I can double click and copy that all down. Now that those are filled in, I can go and start to summarize. So let me go to the summary. I want the total revenue for Apple. So now I want to sum up all of the revenue column, but only for rows where the year was 2020. So if I go back to my detailed data, sum up this revenue, but only take this row and this row and this row, only where the year was 2020. So that's a conditional sum, a sum ifs. This will be easier if I give a named range, revenue, price, units, product, region, so on. Ooh, one small problem, I've already named this one. I've already used that name year. Let me go change that. Let's work on changing that. Go to your formula tab where you have the name manager. There's the year, and let's edit. Let's make the name, I'll do it price year, because that's the year that comes from my pricing table. Hit close. And now if I come back to where I did this, notice that before I just had year, and now it has updated that to price year. Okay, that allows me to select all of these column headers. We're going to use that as the names for our named ranges, and then select all the way down the page. I'm holding down the Shift key as I do this. If I hit the Control and the Shift key and then down arrow, it selects to the bottom of the data. So with everything selected, I could go all at once, create from selection, And now it recognizes that there's text in the top row. And if I hit OK, it will create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new named ranges. So I should now have over here a revenue named range. There it is. It's just the values. The header became the name. At the top, we've got product and plain year will be from this tab. Okay, so now on the summary, I can do a sum ifs. Sum the revenue column if the year, now notice I've got my year and price year, plain year, is equal to that number. And then if I want to do it again, sum ifs, sum the revenue column if the year column is equal to 2021, different number. Okay, now since the named ranges are absolute, I can copy that formula over. And now I have all of the prices for the year, the sum of all the revenue for the year 2024. Okay, now let's do it by region and by year. So sum ifs, more than one condition. I want to sum the revenue range, and the criteria is that the year is equal to 2020. Okay, now thinking ahead, I'm going to copy across the row. That will be fine. I want the year to update, but then I'm also going to copy down the column, and I want it to stay on this row. So I'm going to use the F4 or Command T repeatedly. So once, twice, so it locks just the row. If you don't have the shortcut key, just go back and put a $ in front of the row number. Okay, lock it on that row. And what have I done? Revenue, if the year is this, and the region, there's my other named range that I created, is this. Okay, now when I copy across the columns, I don't want this column, I want it to always stay in column B. When I copy down the rows, I want it to update. So here I want to lock just the column. So once, twice, 3 times so that the $ is in front of the column letter. Sum the revenue if the year is 2020 and the region is Americas. That should work. Okay, so now if I copy it across, it's still pulling from America, so that reference didn't move, but the year reference did. And then if I copy down, the red reference moved, but the year is staying in its row. So I should be able to copy this over and copy it down. And then if I sum, I should get the same number as Apple products in 2020. Copy that formula across and just verify that the numbers are the same. Okay, now by product, we want to sum ifs, sum the revenue still. This time I want the product named range to be iPhone. Here I want to keep it in this column. So 1, 2, 3, so that the $ is in front of the column name. But I want the year reference to be 2020. This time I want that to stay in the row. So 1, 2, and we're done. iPhones all the way across, and then I should be able to copy that all the way down. And if you just want to spot check, pick one of them, double click it so that the product reference is staying in column B and the year reference is staying in row 21. Again, I can sum the 3 numbers above. And make sure that you only sum up these 3 rows. Notice that the year 2020 is a number, and if you do like an automated sum, Excel might try to add the year number into that also. Copy that across, and we should have the same revenue totals for the year 2024. Okay, now unit sales by product. So now I don't want the revenue, I want to do the units. So we want to sum up still, but this time my sum range will be the units. There it is, my named range. And I want the year to be 2020. Lock that row. And I want the product to be iPhone, excuse me, product, comma, to be iPhone, and lock that column. Copy it across, copy it down, and then we can sum up. And again, make sure that you're only summing the 3 rows above, don't sum the date in there. And those are units. They should not have dollar signs. Let's fix that. Let's make it just a number and take off the extra decimals. Oh, but put commas in and take off the extra decimals. There we go. Okay, let's just verify that. Sum all of these. And then let's add it this way. Sum up the units column. Yep, that's the same. Okay, let's delete that and move on. Okay, so now we want by region, so Americas, and by product, iPhone, and by year. Okay, now here we've got some formatting. So this has been centered across the range. It's not a merged cell. So notice how I can click each one separately, but it's been centered across. It's a center across selection. So watch your formula bar up here. That middle cell doesn't have the value in it. It's actually in this cell, and then it's been centered. So when you want to look for the year, look for it in that cell. Okay, sum ifs. Summing up the revenue. So that my range revenue column criteria is that region, there it is, needs to be the Americas. Lock that column. The product named range needs to equal iPhone. Lock that row. So that would be 1, 2 toggles. And the year has to be, and then point to that cell. Now, this time I don't want the cell to move to the right, and I also don't want it to move down, so I'm going to lock it. And now I should be able to copy that across. Let me widen out my columns. There they go. And I should be able to take those formulas and copy them down. Let me just quickly check if I scoot this up just a little bit. There we go. If I select it and I come down to the status bar, I see it will sum the selected numbers, 137 million. Over here for iPhones in 2020, 137 million. Okay, so that's working. Okay, now for 2021, I want to do a similar thing. The only thing is if I copy this formula and I paste it over here, almost everything works. So America's iPhone, but notice that this reference is still locked. I've got some options. I could actually take my move cursor and drag it to the new location. And notice that it is still a locked reference. And then I can copy it over, copy it down, widen out my columns so I can see the numbers. There we go. And continue on for the next 3 years. And I will let you do that part. Let's go ahead and total this. Seems like it should be totaled to me. Sum it up. Copy that across. That way you can verify the iPhone sales in 2020, the iPad sales in 2020, so that you know that it's all correct. Okay, finish that out and turn it in. Thank you. See you next time.